So, 0, 0. What does 0 mean to you? Well, hopefully not your regular arithmetic or math score in school. Anyway, 0 is one of those amazing and fascinating concepts in mathematics, but often at times it is undervalued and in fact ignored. Now, what many people fail to understand is this secular symbol developed some 1500 years ago in India has some very special and interesting properties which makes it one of the more interesting of our numbers. In fact, this number was only developed a long time after we had already developed our counting numbers which we use day to day. People used numbers for day-to-day use, but nobody needed to use 0. But somehow, through the course of time, people always knew there was a number that was missing. And when 0 was discovered, it had to be placed somewhere in the mathematics of our time. And that's what makes it so interesting, which we're going to look at in this video. First of all, 0 is the only number that is neither positive nor negative. In fact, if I ask you what positive or negative means, you will probably tell me positive means higher than 0 or negative means less than 0. It is this role that 0 plays right down the center of the number line between positive and negative numbers that makes it so special. But somehow, 0 is an even number. Wait, what? Did you say I'm wrong? Okay, so how do we define an even number? Any number that is divisible by 2? Well, very soon we will find out 0 divided by 2 is 0. Or maybe we could say an even number is any number found between two adjacent odd numbers. If we look at any even number, it's found between two odd numbers. So if we look at the number line, -1 is an odd number, 1 is an odd number, and 0 is right there in between. So 0 still meets the criteria for an even number. So 0 is an even number. It meets all the rules for an even number. It is an even number. But then, funny enough, 0 is neither a prime number nor a composite number. Now you see, among our normal numbers, each number is either a prime number or a composite number. A prime number is a number that only mixes with 1. You cannot find any number that makes up this number apart from 1. But a composite number, you can make it up from other numbers. Take for instance 6, you can make it up from 3 and 2. But 5, you can make it up only from 1 and 5. So 5 is a prime number and 6 is a composite number. But 0 is neither. 0 is neither prime nor composite. Another interesting thing about 0, 0 serves as a placeholder, and this helps us differentiate between large numbers and smaller numbers. Take for instance the above numbers, 11, 101, 110. The different positions of 0 and the absence of 0 helps us tell the difference between these numbers. Without 0, like in the time of the Babylonians, it would be difficult to differentiate between these numbers, and it would be somehow confusing, wouldn't it? Another interesting thing about 0 is, it is the only number amongst all our numbers without any sensory equivalent. Now, what does this mean? When we see, for instance, 2 birds, we can tell there are 2 things. We can feel or see 2 birds, and we actually see the birds, but there is nothing that we see called 2. But we actually can tell there is something that makes the birds 2. But if you have 0 bird, you don't see anything. And this aspect of 0 makes it kind of confusing or hard to understand, because without any bird, you still have 0 bird. 0 is something, but it is just nothing present. The same thing goes for 5 trees. Now, if we see 5 trees, we see trees. We don't see 5, but at least we can identify something about these trees make them 5. But for 0, we cannot tell what we're dealing with. The first thing we have to come up with is, what are we talking about? Trees or birds? And then, hey, 0. There is none of them. So it is this aspect about 0 that is sometimes ambiguous and confusing to the mind. So now let's look at the more juicy stuff. How we use 0, how 0 interacts with other numbers. Not forgetting the forbidden rules of 0. That would be interesting. So first of all, if you add 0 to any number, you always get that number. And this aspect is known as the additive identity aspect of 0. So 0 is the additive identity of any number, the same as 1 is the multiplicative identity of any number. If you multiply any number with 1, you simply get the same number. The same way, if you add 0 with any number, you simply get the number. Now, if you multiply any number with 0, the answer is always 0. Your answer will always be 0. If you multiply 2 with 0, it's 0. If you multiply 1 with 0, it's 0. If you multiply pi with 0, it's 0. If you multiply any number with 0, it is 0. Now, when it comes to division with 0, in fact, when it comes to division in math in general, with 0, we have to be very, very careful. First off, let's look at dividing 0 by any number. Now, if we divide 0 by any number, first of all, it is possible. Our answer is 0. If we divide 0 by any number, our answer is 0. And to show this, take for instance, we took 6 divided by 2. Our answer is 3. And to prove that, 3 times 2 is 6. Now, if we divide 0 by any number, our answer is 0. Because 0 times any number is 0. Now, any number divided by 0 is undefined. Undefined. Any number divided by 0 is undefined. We cannot divide any number by 0. But why is that, you may ask? In fact, to challenge me, you may say, if you divide any number by 0, it's simply 0. But let's look at that. Let's see. Remember when we said 6 divided by 2 is 3? And to prove that, we just simply said, okay, 3 times the 2 is again 6. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So that proves itself. Now look at when it comes to 0. What happens here? If you divide 2 by 0 and you say it is a number, that means there is a number that if you multiply by 0, it will give you 2. So you see where we begin to have problems. And that is why dividing any number by 0 is undefined. In fact, this is one of the cardinal rules in math, just like the 10 commandments. We also have cardinal rules in math, and dividing by 0 is one of them. In fact, if you divide by 0, the planets are going to come crashing into one another, the sun is going to melt, and our whole universe is going to cease to exist. Or let's look at it from another angle. Let's try dividing 2 and 4 by 0 and see what we get. So for 2 divided by 0, if we say there is a number that is possible to divide by 0 and 2 divided by 0 is this number, that means this number times 0 will equal 2. But if we try again with 4, it's the same thing. And if this number is the same with the case in 2, then it means 4 is equal to 2.
No. 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 Hell no. 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 I refuse. No. No.
So we can all agree that to divide by 0 is undefined. In fact, we should never do that. For the safety of mankind and the future of our universe, never divide by 0. But now we run into another problem when we come across 0 divided by 0. Now look at this closely. We have come across dividing 0 by any number, and that is possible. But we have equally seen that to divide any number by 0 is not possible. In fact, that is one of the cardinal rules of math. Never divide any number by 0. But you can divide 0 by any number. So what happens when you try to divide 0 by 0? What would happen? Would our universe stay intact? Let's see. So when it comes to 0 divided by 0, now this one is a little bit technical, and this is where the abstract concepts of mathematics and philosophy starts coming together. So look at this. We have seen you cannot divide any number by 0, but you can actually divide 0 by any number. So what happens when you try to divide 0 by itself? I mean, think about it. If you give 0 cookie to 0 person, how many cookies does that person have? I mean, it is possible from one angle, but it's not possible from another angle. So we run into a problem where, looking at it from the possibility where you could divide 0 by a number, yes, but how many cookies does nobody have? So that is another problem. And another way to look at it is also in math, if you divide any number by itself, it's equal to 1. So are we saying if you divide 0 by itself is equal to 1? Or if you divide 0 by itself, looking at it from dividing 0 by any number, it's supposed to be 0. So again, this is said to be indeterminate. So 0 divided by 0 is indeterminate. But mind you, indeterminate is not the same as undefined. In the case of any number divided by 0, it's undefined because there is just no current understanding of how to carry out this operation in our current knowledge of science. We don't understand how to do it because if you approach it from one angle, it goes one way. If you approach it from another angle, it's another totally different answer. So undefined is not the same as indeterminate, and we will discover that in other videos as we get along. Finally, 0 raised to the power 0 is undefined. Again, in this scenario, there is no current solution to this problem. It breaks all the laws of mathematics and we don't yet have any solution. Most of these problems are just classified as undefined or indeterminate, but we can still just think about it in the hope of finding a solution to advanced mathematics and find solutions to other problems. But 0 raised to the power 0, there is no known answer. Why? Well, if you look at it from one angle, any number raised to the power 0 is supposed to be 1. But if you look at it from another angle, 0 raised to the power any number is supposed to be 0. So it just conflicts with itself. There is no known solution and it's undefined. So there you have it. 0 in a nutshell. Well, I know that was a bad joke, but I couldn't come up with a better one about 0. So what do you think? Did you learn any new interesting things about 0? Or do you know more? Please tell us in the comments below and tell us what you know or what we missed out in the video. And don't forget to keep liking our content and sharing our video, and also not forgetting to subscribe on our channel. Subscribing and sharing our content help get our content out to more people. So you can continue watching our other videos, or consider joining us and supporting us on our other platforms as seen in the description. Links in the description. And stay tuned for our next video, which is gonna be on 0 and infinity. These concepts are abstract concepts which are sometimes difficult to grasp, but I'm gonna be tackling this in our next video, so stay tuned. Ciao!